You're listening to the Monocle Daily, first broadcast on the 28th of August 2026 on Monocle Radio.
What are Icelanders voting on this weekend? Why have loyalty programs become so incredibly annoying? And US President Donald Trump conquers Canada, one lake at a time. I'm Andrew Mueller. The Monocle Daily starts now. Hello and welcome to the Monocle Daily, coming to you from our studios here at Midori House in London. I'm Andrew Mueller. It's the Friday Daily, so Rob Bound will be here for the daily weekly quiz. We'll consider the decline and fall of airline and other loyalty programs, and we'll have our weekly assessment of what we've learned. Stay tuned, all that and more coming up right here on the Monocle Daily. This is the Monocle Daily. I'm Andrew Mueller, and it is Friday, and I'm back, as I wasn't last week because I was elsewhere. So we return to the institution that is the daily weekly quiz, or weekly daily quiz, whichever you prefer, I don't mind. And I am joined once again in that endeavour by my fellow contributing editor, Rob Bound. Rob, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me. Did you hear in the corridor someone described us as the Statler and Waldorf of Monocle Radio, Andrew? And how do you feel about that?
I mean, they have always been a benchmark to which I have aspired, so I'm perfectly happy.
It's due to our harumphing and gruffness and bluffness.
A reminder to listeners of the format. Rob and I ask each other 3 multiple-choice questions about the week's events in turn. At the end of it, by and large, I win. So to move us along to that, here is the annoying theme music. And here we go. Rob, I think you should go first this week.
Sure thing. OK, question 1, Andrew. This week, the Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama died, aged 97. She was well known for working with colour and geometry, and in the last 20 years, her shows became crowd-pleasing blockbusters for all ages, especially popular with parents and children. But Kusama's work wasn't always so family-friendly. Can you identify which one of the following works was by the Japanese artist? A. An armchair entirely covered in hundreds of sewn, stuffed fabric protrusions that bring to mind big sausages or plump white phalluses. Sorry, I should have made eye contact with you at that exact moment. B.
We'll get past it.
A performance piece centred around volunteers cutting off the artist's clothes with a pair of scissors. Whether or not she ended up naked in the gallery depending entirely upon the predilection of those visitors. C. Another performance work that invites gallery goers to squeeze through a narrow gap between a naked man and a naked woman. Or D. A video work consisting of a volunteer lying under a glass coffee table while a fat man defecates on it.
See, my suspicion, Rob, is you've done that thing where those are all 4 genuine pieces by actual artists, but only one of them was actually by her.
Well, we'll go into that afterwards.
Yeah,
let's see.
Because I have definitely heard the thing about cutting the clothes off thing rings a bell, as does the people trying to squeeze between 2 naked people. The final one sounds like something of an urban myth, but nonetheless. And the first one was the armchair, from which she pivoted to. So I'm looking at an artist who pivoted to brightly coloured things that delighted children.
Exactly. So she started off in a slightly more sort of psychologically interesting place, and she I think she used artist therapy, and she used these colours and patterns which sort of gave her solace, but it wasn't always the way.
See, I can't remember the name of the artist associated with any of the others, but hers does not ring a bell in association with the 2 that I can remember. The glass table thing, I'm pretty sure, is an urban myth from the Diaries of Motley Crue or something. So I'm going A, chair covered in phalluses.
Are you sitting comfortably, Andrew Miller?
If only the listeners could have witnessed my triumphant arms aloft.
Yeah,
there.
Exactly. That was a fist bump.
It was
an air punch. She did. She made that was A. Accumulation Number 1 was the title of it, from 1962. Marks Kusama's early use of obsessive soft sculptures meant to confront and externalise her anxieties around sex and the physical body.
Well, that brings me to my question 1. Okay. I have a 1-0 lead already, so the pressure is right on. And my first question is this. Held this week in the Spanish town of Buñol was the annual folk festival in which participants from Spain and around the world do what? Is it A, pelt each other with tomatoes? Is it B, carry wives? Is it C, play air guitar? Or is it D, sculpt radishes?
Well, I don't think radishes and Buñol go hand in hand. I think it's not the right climate for radishes. I think they're grown in cooler places than Buñol. Maybe it's up in the north of Spain in the sort of San
Sebastian.
Sebastian.
You can get some very good Spanish radishes.
Okay, it's not okay. Playing air guitar. I don't know whether it's the air guitar championships. I think this is a bit more of a sort of Belgian predilection, a Northern European predilection for these sort of funny things with the long nights, the long winter nights kind of vibes I'm getting. I'm sure I've seen pictures in the newspaper this week of this Spanish tomato throwing festival, but I don't know whether it's in Buñol. But I think the timing of you asking this question, I'm going to cut to the chase. Let's try and peg it on 1-1. I think it's the tomato festival. Wow.
Well done, well
Thank
reasoned. It was La Tomatina, which this year involved some 20,000 participants who hurled 165 tons of overripe tomatoes at each other. It is not, in fact, an ancient folk festival. It dates only back to about 1945 and to a spontaneous food fight that actually occurred in the town.
I thought it was sponsored by Getty Images or someone. It seems to be for something dreamt up so that they can sell a lot of pictures of it.
It could well be. But
Tomatina.
That's the one. But
ages since I saw her.
Much as you had done with your first question, mine were all actual genuine folk festivals. Wife carrying is a Finnish thing, as is air guitar. The World Championships are occurring right now in Oulu, and the Night of the Radishes occurs every December in Mexico.
The Night of the Radishes.
The Night of the Radishes.
Okay.
And everybody on this one day, you can't pre-sculpt your radish, as I understand it. If there are any from the Mexican radish sculpting fraternity tuning in, do feel free to correct me. But my understanding is you have to arrive with your intact radish and your carving tool and carve something on the spot.
You have to. It's a site-specific work.
It is.
Well, that's our. Let's go on expenses, Andrew. It's got Monocle story written. It's a daily road trip, isn't it?
It kind of has.
Yeah.
Anyway, so question 2 from you.
From me. Okay, question 2. This week, Iranian media published an AI-generated image titled Great Victory, Strait of Hormuz, featuring President Trump physically and metaphorically out of his depth and all at sea in the titular channel. Which well-known album cover does this image appear to be referencing? Is it A, The Beach Boys by the Beach Boys? Is it B, Nevermind by Nirvana? Is it C, High and Dry by your favourites, Def Leppard? Or is it D, Rum Sodomy and the Lash by the Pogues?
Oof. All very plausible
Sort of
nautical,
briny,
nautical album titles. 2 of which I can picture extreme. I mean, 2 of which I'm certain I own, i.e. Nevermind by Nirvana and Rum Sodomy and the Lash by the Pogues, which is one of my very favourite albums.
Bonus
question to that. Do you know who is responsible for the quote that the title is drawn from?
Winston Churchill.
It is Winston
Churchill. On his
Churchill.
time in the Navy.
Yeah, he said that the 3 pillars of the Royal Navy were Rum Sodomy and the Lash. That cover is in itself based on a famous artwork. I think The Raft of the Medusa, if memory serves, though I don't recall the original artist. What does that Def Leppard album look like, and is that a big enough deal? I think if you're looking for something floundering out of its depth, sort of perhaps chasing an illusory object, and I don't know off the top of my head what the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps might have put on the end of a fishhook instead of a dollar note. I'm going to say Nevermind.
Whoa. Very well reasoned, Andrew. As much as it pains me to say it, The Beach Boys by the Beach Boys is them running into the sea. Mm-hmm. You know, Nevermind is the baby swimming after the dollar bill. High and Dry is just is again a sort of like man jumping into the ocean. Rum Sodomy and Lash, as you say, is The Raft of Medusa by Theodore Géricault. Of
course. Okay, so 2-1 to me, but you have a question in hand, Rob, and the question is this: tomorrow, Iceland will vote in a referendum on what proposition? Is it A, banning beer, B, resuming talks on joining the European Union, C, banning dogs from Reykjavik, or D, banning television on Thursdays?
I think it's going to be a tough sell to ban dogs from Reykjavik. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to police. I don't know the Icelandic vibe on cats versus dogs versus pets generally. Banning television on Thursdays is fantastic. It's got a bit of a sort of Monty Python catchphrase about it, and they banned TV on Thursdays. So I don't think it can be that. Banning beer again. What kind of Prime Minister or head of state of Iceland would possibly do such a thing? I think it can only be Iceland. One of those ones I can never really remember if it's in or out the EU. I think they're thinking about rejoining the EU.
Is the correct answer. But, Rob,
Yeah.
re your scepticism about the other answers. They are all actual former Icelandic laws. Beer was only legalised in 1989. Wine and spirits had been legalised some decades earlier. Dogs were...
Too weak for the Icelanders.
Exactly. Dogs were banned from Reykjavik for public health reasons from 1924 until 1984.
Wow.
And there was no TV on Thursdays until 1987, which was apparently to give the small staff of the national broadcaster a day off and also to encourage socialising.
Brilliant.
So, Rob, this is now 2-2 with a question each in hand. This could go anywhere.
Okay. So are you ready for your third question?
I am ready.
This week in it would be hilarious if it weren't rather chilling, robot quasi-Olympics in Beijing, a Chinese robot beat Usain Bolt's 100-metre world record of 9.58 seconds, breasting the tape, if indeed that's what a robot can do, at 9:32. What was the name of the robot? Was it A, Ray, B, Rocket, C, Lightning, or D, Mr. Speedy Gonzales? Well, it could be D. I don't see why
it could be D. What kind of name is some Chinese nerd going to give?
Scientist?
No.
Where'd you stand on using the word boffin in your script?
I'm a huge fan of the word
good.
boffin.
Egghead.
Egghead.
Conehead.
Friendless Poindexter. Is Speedy Gonzales a boffin trying to be funny? Ray, Lightning or Rocket? I don't know about... I think Lightning would be a bold move because that was sort of the Usain Bolt's own trademark, i.e. Lightning Bolt. Rocket is very literal. Scientists, they are not...
Ray, it could be short for Raymond. It could just be like ray of light, faster than the speed of light. Who knows?
These are scientists, not poets. I'm going with Rocket. No!
I mean, I would love it if Mr. Speedy was... Is this a nerd trying to be funny? It was me trying to be funny, so
well,
thanks.
Okay, well, I want half a point for that then.
It was C, Lightning. Lightning's fellow cyborg competitors couldn't stop and they sort of ran into a crash mat and burst into flames.
That was deeply amusing.
So not quite as cool as Usain's lightning pose, for which perhaps this robot was named.
I overthought it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay.
Well, anyway... what can happen now? I can't win, Rob. I can only draw by wrong-footing you on the third and final question, which is this. Dolly Parton died this week, aged 80, obviously terrifically sad. Of the many things she was, singer, actor, philanthropist, businesswoman, she always said she wanted to be remembered as a songwriter. Which one of the following hits by other country artists did she not write? A, The Stranger by Kenny Rogers. B, I'm in No Condition by Hank Williams Jr. C, Waltz Me to Heaven by Waylon Jennings. D, Mama Tried by Merle Haggard.
Oof, wow.
Solid country gold.
Right, I don't think it's the Waylon Jennings one for sure. I think I thought Kenny Rogers wrote most of his own stuff. I don't know. Has he got a bit of a Jimmy Webb world about him? Possibly. I don't know. I'd find it difficult for Hank Williams Jr. He wasn't Hank Williams, was he? So
he was not Hank Williams.
He wouldn't be right. He wasn't as good. As in, he wasn't perhaps as proficient a songwriter. I'm going for Hank Williams Jr.
Dolly Parton very much wrote I'm in No Condition by Hank Williams Jr., and it is an absolute belter. She also wrote The Stranger by Kenny Rogers and Waltz Me to Heaven by Waylon Jennings. She did not write Mama Tried by Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard wrote that.
They did the show together, didn't they? It wasn't the Grand Ole Opry. Didn't they present a sort of Sunday night country show together? And he was terribly patronising to her, wasn't he?
That was Porter Wagoner, I think.
Porter Wagoner.
For whom she later wrote.
Sorry, Merle.
For whom she later wrote I Will Always Love You.
Yeah.
She did also, of course, duet with Kenny Rogers, but she duetted, collaborated, wrote for with pretty much everybody, which such is the size of the tear in the country firmament, if you can indeed tear a firmament. But yes, Rob, that is a 2-2 draw. There is going to be a tie-break, which our producer, Christy, is about to come in and deliver. But as I was saying, though she did not write Merle Haggard's Mama Tried because Merle Haggard did, she did write several others that Merle Haggard recorded, one of which is Kentucky Gambler. Let's hear a bit of it as Christy makes her way in.
Kentucky Gambler, who's gonna love your woman in Kentucky? Yeah, and who's gonna be the one to give her everything she needs? Kentucky Gambler, who's gonna raise your children in Kentucky? Hey, who's gonna keep them fed and keep them shoes on their...
The late, great Merle Haggard, with whom I once had the considerable pleasure of brunching in Redding, California, with Kentucky Gambler. And joining us now for the tiebreak is the Kentucky Gambler herself, Christy O'Grady. Christy, that's now just your nickname.
Hi, Christy.
Yeah.
Kentucky, that's brilliant. Kentucky Gamble us. What are you going to gamble us?
So the format is I will give you a question which has a numerical value, and the person closest to that numerical value wins.
Okay, that's fair.
So in honour of the late, great Dolly Parton, my question to you is, how many Grammy Awards was she nominated for?
Oh, my God.
In her career?
In her career.
Thousands.
I'm going to say she was out of favour for quite a while. She was in and then out and then back.
Fair.
I would have said, I'm saying 40.
40.
Is my ballpark.
I'm going to go a bit higher because there are so many Grammy categories for which Dolly Parton could presumably have been eligible.
Films and all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. Soundtracks, etc.
Soundtracks, I mean, yeah.
I will take a swing on 57.
57.
Okay, so it's 40, 57. I've erred on the side of
Okay.
caution, but
So-
Dolly is an estimable genius. So
She is. The winning answer is a total of 3 out.
Mm-hmm.
And the winner is Andrew Mueller. She was nominated for 54 Grammy Awards.
Amazing.
Andrew, hats off. I can't say it fairer than that. Or either Statler or Waldorf will walk us out. Christy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Christy, and better luck next week, Rob. You're listening to The Daily. This is The Daily with me, Andrew Mueller, and it is hard to know exactly when was the point that loyalty schemes began to feel less like a system for rewarding the best customers of a given business and more like a means for driving them to the very end of their wits. But in the view of a great many Monocle staff, we would appear to have passed it. Here, first of all, is the producer of today's Daily, the Kentucky Gambler herself, Christy O'Grady.
I commute to London via train each day, and the only way to make it palatable is with an overpriced, average-tasting coffee. Each morning I dutifully hand over my loyalty card for a stamp with the promise of a free hot beverage on the 10th visit. But no longer. Last week I was pointed to a screen on the counter in which I have to enter my actual phone number and upon payment receive beans in return. £1 spent earns you 1 bean. 35 beans gets you 1 drink, which equates now to 12 flat whites purchased. Already the goalposts have moved. To add insult to injury, my flat white costs £3.95. Does that 95 pence get counted? No, it does not. Never have I been more upset at being 5 pence short of a bean.
The first airline to introduce a frequent flyer scheme, as we now understand it, was probably Texas International in 1979. The idea was simple. The more you flew, the more you'd get to fly, and perhaps in greater comfort. Since then, frequent flyer schemes have been adopted by most airlines, but they are now often such a combination of complicated, inefficient and miserly that they feel more like an apparatus imposed by a given airline's commercial rival in order to annoy the bejeebers out of their most regular customers. Joining me in body and opinion on this is Monocle's Associate Editor for Design and Fashion, Grace Charlton. Grace, I know you have written about this very topic, but you are, as I understand it, an abstainer. You will not even participate.
I know, and I'm a frequent flyer as well. In 2025, I boarded 49 flights.
Not bad.
That's almost once a week. And 8 Eurostars, so if you count that, and a few boats. But hey, who's counting? Me.
Well, you are, clearly.
But the thing, so I've, gone around the world. I've been to Shanghai, I've been to Sydney, I've been to Rome. But the only thing that I'm like really loyal to in this whole situation is the fact that I will not join a loyalty scheme.
Has that always been the case? Did you ever once join one and then thought better of it?
I think I've probably tried to join it a few times, but this is my problem. Like, it's a confusing jumble of airline associations. It's fiddly apps. It's jumping through administrative hoops, sort of akin to like filing your tax return. It's so much effort. And a part of me thinks that they're just trying to trap you so that you spend more money instead of just sort of seeing what the best option is on the market. And sometimes it's Ryanair. Okay, but here's the other thing, right?
By golly, I think you're onto something. I think you've blown this wide open.
I'm happy to fly Wizz Air if it's cheaper. I know a lot of people aren't. And there's a real generational divide at play here because a lot of people under the age of 28, which I have to confess I'm not, I'm 30, but only 65% of flyers under the age of 28 bother with loyalty schemes, whereas 89% of people in their 60s and 70s still see value in membership. And I think it's because they're clinging on to the golden days of, counting points according to mileage.
See, my objection, and I speak as someone who is not quite in that latter cohort, but I am a member of frequent flyer schemes because I joined them a million years ago. It becomes a habit. My objection is that it's almost impossible to do anything with them. In theory, on a couple of very well-known loyalty schemes, I have enough points/miles, call them what you will, to fly to the moon, and yet I always find it completely impossible to spend them. I do not understand how to do it. And it's not just that the rules are complicated, the websites are a shambles. When you try to do it by phone, nobody answers. Airlines do not have any public-facing email addresses anymore, so you end up with this impressive-looking number of points for no point. We do now have some further thoughts on this from our colleague Lily Austin. Lily, hit it.
Is it possible to conceive of a better loyalty scheme than one that offers a free flight anywhere in the world? Yes, I'm talking about the British Airways Companion Voucher. On paper, an incredible offering, but woe betide anyone who actually collects the required thousands of points and attempts to cash them in. The booking system is the stuff of nightmares. Don't imagine you can do a broad search, for example, for flights from a UK airport to a Japanese one during March. Oh no, you must choose a specific airport on a specific date, inevitably inducing the tired refrain of no flights available. And don't expect to find a long-haul flight any sooner than 9 months from now or any later than 12 months from now when the flights go live. Your best hope is a short-haul flight, first class, for additional points, of course, because that's all that will be left. And on that note, the Venice Marco Polo Airport Lounge is fabulous.
Well, there's something to it then. But on the subject of lounges, they are another thing, Grace, that has become devalued by frequent flyer.
Don't get me started, Andrew Mueller.
Because the lounge is now often the most crowded and unpleasant part of the airport.
Exactly. Also, I'm sorry, but the idea, like the prospect of a dry sandwich and a free glass of wine is just simply not enough to lure me in. I've been to the SAS lounge at Copenhagen Airport, right? You'd think that's like the height of good design and taste. Awful. It was so bad. And there was nowhere to sit and there was nothing good on offer. I'd rather just go to Join the Juice in the main terminal.
I have in my time, having been granted lounge access for whatever reason, sat in the lounge, thought this is awful. I would rather be in Pret and done literally that.
Is prestige dilution?
prestige dilution. Is that a phrase?
It's an official term as of now.
Okay. Well, on the subject of prestige dilution, we also have some thoughts from our colleague and fellow Australian Nick Manise, who has had his prestige diluted.
So I was a long-time card-carrying silver status member of British Airways Executive Club before they did an enormous overhaul of their tier-based systems earlier this year, and it shifted from prioritising people like myself who are high-frequency flyers to those who were spending the most money. So it was basically your first class or nothing at all. And I think as a journalist that's constantly zipping around the globe, that just wasn't feasible on my end. But it meant that all of a sudden I lost access to the British Airways lounges. That was maybe the biggest kick in the teeth. But the reality is that the lounges themselves actually weren't that nice. They often had stained carpets, bad food, overcrowded. Toilets weren't even necessarily clean. So it was this funny push and pull where really all I wanted was this validation that I was a frequent flyer rather than necessarily the payoff of a nice space to be in, which I think is probably a reflection of mine, and I would like to think other people's as well, because there was a huge backlash to this shift by British Airways, our desire for recognition rather than physical rewards.
It's actually worse than that, and I'm going to do now some live action, Grace. This is what happens when you log on to the British Airways website and click log in, and I know for a fact it has been like this for weeks.
Oh no.
Are you watching?
Oh gosh. Oh no, access denied.
So not only do I have several gazillion points I cannot even spend, I cannot even access the website to be told I can't spend them.
It's a mess. And British Airways is supposed to be one of the best, you know?
Is it though?
No, I know.
I mean, where do you see this going, though? Do you think airlines have got to the point that they are now just indulging in, you know, this is like that thing where a relationship has run its course and you can't bring yourself to say that to the other person, so you think, what I'll do is behave in as appalling a fashion as I possibly can, and eventually they will get the message and do the job themselves.
And you know what? I think to fix it, we need to go back to the good old days. Remember when we first started, you know, this thing, and it was just about the mileage? Because the problem is, like, it's now such a multifaceted behemoth. It's like linked to banks and big hotel groups. You know, I think we should bring it back to mileage and how often you fly, because that means that you are a good flyer and you like have perfected the system. Like, I think it just does make sense. And like, to be in the honorary circle at Miles and More, for example, you still need to like fly transatlantic flights once a week. Like, it's still impossibly high almost. But I think that we need to just strip it back, make it simple.
So just finally on this, Grace, we'll try and end on a constructive note after that epic amount of belly aching that you and I and our two colleagues have done. What would it take for an airline to get you to sign on the dotted line?
Oh, I would just like to fill in one form. That's all it's going to take. I don't want to like go beyond that. I don't want to download an app. I want to make sure it's like really comprehensible in a sense like I can comprehend it. And it's the miles. Nothing more. Nothing about the supermarkets. Nothing about the hotels. Nothing about renting a car. I don't care. I just want like the fact that I take 49 flights in a year needs to be recognised in a way that is better than it currently is.
Grace Charlton, thank you for joining me. But the news is apparently not all bad. There are apparently at least 2 brands which actually hope regular customers will come back.
What's clever about Selfridge's loyalty scheme is that it doesn't actually feel like a loyalty scheme. You collect keys as you shop or eat in the restaurants, and as you move up the tiers, the rewards become increasingly more interesting. The real prize, though, is reaching the VSP level, which is a valued Selfridges person. And that's because this gives you access to 40 Duke, which is Selfridges' private members club, which is entirely separate from the store. It has a restaurant, a bar, a big terrace, a number of personal shopping rooms, and when you reach the VSP level, you can gain access to your own private members club in Mayfair. And that makes you feel genuinely valued. There's no waving vouchers around or begging for scraps. No, this is discreet, effortless, and very clever. Selfridges is rewarding you with access and experience rather than simply just another discount.
My absolute favorite loyalty card is Le Bon Marché's La Carte 24 Sèvres. Besides being a must-stop anytime I'm in Paris, the department store card feels quite generous to me. I do spend some money when I'm there, from their sharp menswear selection to delicious bonbons à la Grande Épicerie de Paris. But almost magically, I always have bonus money to spend. At the moment, I have a lovely €140 voucher to spend. The only caveat, I must spend before November. So I'm booking an October weekend in Paris right now. Merci.
That was Fernando Augusto Pacheco, before that Brenda Toohey. This is The Daily with me, Andrew Mueller. And finally on today's show, our weekly assessment of the extent of the expansion of human knowledge to have taken place in the last 7 days. We learned this week that it might be time to lay in a stockpile of snacks appropriate to enjoying the Canadian-American War of 2026.
Now to the escalating trade war between the U.S. and Canada. President Trump imposing a 50% tariff on Canadian goods, ranging from building materials to hockey sticks. And tonight, Canada's Prime Minister firing back with retaliatory tariffs.
To be clear, we're not going to spend over much time parsing the actual details of the dispute for satirical effect, as we have previously learned that international fracasses involving US President Donald Trump have a way of abruptly shifting their parameters as he variously chickens out, loses interest, or is talked into some other madcap escapade by whichever importuning supplicant. Verily, the man has moved more goalposts than, this'll do, has moved more goalposts than Field Tech Solutions of Long Island, New York. Can someone read out this bit from their mission statement so it becomes clear what a brilliant joke this is?
Provides comprehensive soccer goal services, including installations, goal tune-ups, net replacements, structural repairs, and wheel repairs.
I think we can all agree that that was totally worth it. Anyway, we learned that Canada was no more minded to back down than, say, and please do appreciate the research that went into this deftly apposite simile, Wendell Clark of the Toronto Maple Leafs circa the mid-80s to mid-90s when confronted by an impertinent rival.
Now Wendell Clark, 2 left hands on Wilson, back to their feet, and Clark, 3 right hands.
We learned that Canada's Finance Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, was... Actually, hang on, we learned that Canada's Finance Minister actually is called François-Philippe Champagne. He is not altogether surprisingly from Quebec, but come on, this is like someone from Saskatchewan being called Gordon Bruce Maple Syrup. Anyway, hit it, François-Philippe.
Canada will meet the moment. Canadians will meet the moment. We will meet the moment together. And as the Prime Minister has said, we will support our workers, our businesses and our industry with whatever it takes for as long as it takes.
We learned that these sentiments were being echoed, if in somewhat less decorous tones, across Canada's political divide by Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
Just wondering, you sound a little more subdued than you did this morning on the radio when you said Donald Trump could kiss your ass. Did the Prime Minister tell you to ask you to tone it down a bit?
No, he didn't. I'm not going to comment, but he wasn't against that. And I have a lot of real estate on my ass, so he has a lot of room to kiss my ass.
Anyway, we learned that retaliation from south of the border was in the offing, and we learned that, and not for the first time during President Trump's second stint in the White House, all leave for cartographers was to be cancelled.
President Trump is threatening to change the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America.
It's the latest escalation now in the trade war with Canada as both sides are threatening new tariffs.
Yes, we learned that following his renaming of the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, a resonant and authoritative declaration to which anybody at all definitely pays any attention whatsoever, Trump was now proposing to do similar to the smallest of the Great Lakes, and we learned that Premier Ford also had views on this proposition.
I have to laugh when he comes up with these ideas. It's always going to be Lake Ontario here in Canada, and you know, that's up to the president if he wants to name it Lake America, Lake Trump, whatever he wants to do. That's his prerogative.
And not that we wish to be accused of stirring up trouble, but we learned when we unfurled our map of Ford's province which we have kept handy all this time for just this eventuality, that Ontario contains locales called Washington, Florida and Boston, for starters, all of which could be usefully renamed after things the US President finds personally objectionable. We are just going to hang these out there as possibilities for new names for these towns. Wind Farm, Ontario. Obama, Ontario. Musical artists who aren't the Village People, Ontario. Speaking of which... We learned that the president's favourite work of art is even more annoying when rendered as a sort of upbeat calypso by the White House House Band, as it was following an event at which we learned of what we think was an update of one of the most famous of presidential warnings of what a complacent nation might stumble into. And yet, if you'll bear with us while we make this work, quite the stark illustration of the devolution of the Republic over the last 14 presidencies or so, i.e. from this...
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
To this.
You'll see right alongside of it the great structure that's rising right next to the White House, and that's going to be the ballroom/military complex.
Still, we learned that the bewilderment of American voters generally was as nothing when compared to the befuddlement of Alaskan voters specifically. Alaska probably has a state song or something. The Alaska Symphony Orchestra there, with a morale-lifting virtual performance recorded during the COVID-19 lockdown. Fun and appropriate fact, the lyric contains a reference to sourdough for some reason.
Really? Wow, that's amazing. My God. Ooh, really?
Amazing.
Wow.
That's fascinating.
Anyway, we learned that in the looming senatorial midterm election, Alaskan voters are arguably entitled to the complaint that all politicians are the same.
Incumbent Republican Senator Dan S. Sullivan is up for re-election. And there's an 11th hour ad, also running as a Republican. And his name is Dan J. Sullivan.
But there's more.
One of the most confusing Senate elections in history just got even more confusing up in Alaska. That's because Dan Sullivan just endorsed Dan Sullivan in hopes of beating Dan Sullivan.
Yes, we learned that Dan Sullivan, in his bid to unseat Dan Sullivan, has now secured the critical endorsement of Dan Sullivan. But we learned that this may not be the end of it, for we learned after a long weary night leafing through Alaska's electoral roll that there are 9 Dan Sullivans registered to vote in Alaska, so much may yet hinge on which way Dan Sullivan, Dan Sullivan, Dan Sullivan, Dan Sullivan, Dan Sullivan, and Dan Sullivan jump. For Monocle Radio, I'm Dan Sullivan. And that is all for this edition of the Monocle Daily. Thanks to our guests today, Rob Bound and Grace Charlton, plus the voices of Nick Manise, Lily Austin, Brenda Toohey and Fernando Augusto Pacheco. Today's show was produced by the Kentucky Gambler, Christy O'Grady, and our sound engineer was Mariella Bevan. I'm Andrew Mueller here in London. The Daily is back at the same time on Monday. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend.